Hi, it's me, the host of the Unexpected Detour, wherein life detours are inevitable. Today's episode is one of the most personal episodes I've ever shared because I want to talk honestly about hearing the words, "You had breast cancer." If I can be honest, before my own diagnosis, whenever I heard the word cancer, I associated it with death. That was my understanding of it growing up. And I'd seen family members and friends battle cancer, and I had also seen loss. So in my mind, cancer was something frightening. It was something final. I did not understand the complexity of it. I only understood the fear attached to it. So when I heard the words, "You have breast cancer," immediately my mind went to one question: am I going to die? I think many people who receive a diagnosis understand exactly what I mean. In that moment, your world changes and you're crushed. Everything around you feels different. Your thoughts begin racing, and suddenly you are trying to process something you never imagined would become part of your life. After hearing those words, I began researching the statistics of women dying from breast cancer. And if I could be honest, I think when people are frightened, they begin researching for answers anywhere they can find them. You start reading numbers and survival rates, hoping to find something that will calm your fears. But when you're newly diagnosed, statistics do not feel like numbers. They feel personal. In a panic, I contacted Cancer Treatment Centers of America, because I remember I would constantly see those commercials on TV. And I am sure many of you remember those commercials too. Not knowing where to turn, I immediately called to make an appointment. Appointment was granted, and I was willing to travel all the way to Pennsylvania just to be seen and to feel like someone could help me. I later confided in one of my doctors, and he suggested that I try someone locally. Then my gynecologist referred me to a breast surgeon, whom she was told was excellent. I went to see her, and as they say, first impressions are lasting ones. Trust me, that impression stayed with me. She agreed that I was HER2 positive, but was uncertain about ER and PR status. She explained that an oncologist, the medical oncologist, would better understand those findings and would explain them further. At that point, I was still learning an entirely new language of medical terminology while emotionally trying to survive the shock of hearing I had breast cancer. I did go see the medical oncologist, but he was very dismissive. No bedside manners at all. He came in, he looked at me, and he said, "Chemo." And I said, "Aren't you going to examine me?" And he was like, "No, you need chemo." End the conversation, and that did it for me. So, and I grew up with a mom who was a nurse, who I was her caregiver, who had cancer. So I had to watch her die. So, of course, my natural instinct was, well, she died. Am I going to die? And that is exactly what I felt. I saw how she went through chemo. I saw how she went through radiation. I saw when she had to get that tracheotomy and she couldn't talk anymore. And that just did it for me. So for my body to have to adjust to hearing this word cancer, uh, it wasn't a good thing. And then I remember with the report, that patient portal that I knew I shouldn't have looked in, but my curiosity got the best of me. So I went in the patient portal and I saw the word malignant. But in my mind, I didn't see malignant. I saw benign. And I said, oh, I'm fine. Nothing is wrong with me. I'm good. And that is how overwhelmed my mind was. I saw what I wanted to see. I didn't see anything about stages, nothing. I did see that, there was a lump there, but in my mind, they hadn't, they didn't process that report yet. The report that I was reading was the report for the lymph node underneath my arm, which said it was malignant, but I wanted to see and believe it was benign. It wasn't until I got a call from that same gynecologist who referred me to that breast surgeon, but anyway, and she told me that she would contact me. Because after I had the aspiration, the biopsies and everything, that doctor said she'll contact me. And I asked her not to contact me, to please call the doctor, the GYN who referred me to her, and please do not put it in the portal. Well, lo and behold, it was there. But still, my mind saw benign, so I was fine. And I remember the GYN said, when I get that report back, you come in and you see me. But oh, smart me looked at it, and I called, and the appointment that we initially had for in person, I canceled it. Why did I cancel it? Because of what I read when I thought I saw benign. And I did cancel it. And then she called me and she was like, you know already? I said, know what? That I'm good? She was like, no, you have cancer. You have breast cancer. So my world was crushed right then and there. She had known the story about my mother when my mother had cancer. And she is one of the ones that said to me, you're not going to die. They can treat breast cancer. When your mother died, it was in 2000. Science has moved further. You'll be okay. So I went along with what she said. And I went to that other hospital, and after all of that with that hospital, I found myself going to one that was told to me, that I was told to go to when I first found out. So I ended up going to that hospital, which was Memorial Sloan Kettering. I ended up there. And you want to see an appointment being done so fast? I remember I went to see that breast surgeon, and he said to me, how quickly do you want this done? And I said to him, so can you give me a mastectomy? And he was like, why? It's not that big, the lump. I am just going to do a lumpectomy, and that's it. And I said, but I want a mastectomy. He was like, you don't need a mastectomy. So I went with the lumpectomy, and that was good. He was very, very nice. I've referred other people to him. That's how nice he really was. So I went there. I go for my follow-up appointment, and he sits down and he explains it to me. And I asked him, so what stage am I? See, I knew there were stages, but I didn't know there were stages. I knew there were stages A, B, C, and D, but I didn't know there was a stage stage A1, A2. Yeah, it's a very complex thing. So his words were to me that he has a team of doctors and the medical oncologist will explain everything because she is the one that will subscribe my treatment for that part. Then I would see a radiation oncologist. She would do that part. Fine. I mean, I felt good after dealing with him. So, time comes, I go see the medical oncologist. And I walked in there again thinking I knew something when I didn't know nothing. Excuse me. And I said to her, "Oh, I know what stage I am. I'm stage 2A." And she said, "No, you're stage 2B." Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm sorry. My heart is sunk. Because again, Dr. Francis, who doesn't have a degree in medicine, just knew everything. As my mother used to tell me, she would always ask me, when did I get my medical degree? But anyway, I go in there. She explains everything to me, the treatment. One thing I did like about my doctors, they drew diagrams. So she mapped out the diagram of the treatment, which were 4. And then she mapped out when I would be getting radiation. So they weren't done together. Now, anybody else going through this would ask questions like, what are the side effects of this chemotherapy medicine? Not me. You know what I asked her? Am I going to lose my hair? I was like, I don't know where that came from. But that was the first thing that blurted out. I didn't care about any other side effect. I just did not want to lose my hair. And she said, I am afraid you will lose your hair. And you're going to lose it after the second treatment of chemo. Well, yes, that did happen. But I thank God that I had a son. I still have my son, and he was very, very supportive of me. That was the one I was worried about, even just saying that I had breast cancer. But he was very, very supportive. And he just went with the flow. You know, he was like, "Ma, you got to do what you got to do." So I struggled with that. But I didn't have a problem with the treatments. You know, I guess my attitude, as I spoke to a doctor before, 2 people can have that same disease, same stage and everything, but it's your attitude. So I guess for me, after being coached by a woman who had breast cancer, recently she just passed away after like almost 30 years of dealing with it. But when I went to her first, she told me, don't let nothing stress you out. Not even your kids, not even your family. She informed me, if they start stressing you out, you gotta leave them alone. That's it. And her words worked. So I went in there with a different attitude. I went in there. I learned all these different terminologies, you know, even though I still went home and looked them up. And I asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of questions because I figured if I learned something, perhaps I could teach somebody else something. And I learned a lot about my illness, you know. I really did. I never heard of those ER, PR, and I never knew that. All I knew were stages, but I didn't know that it had a 1 and a 2 that went with the stage. I knew it went up to 4 because once you get to 4, that's metastatic breast cancer. I was stage 2. be, but thank God the lymph nodes under my arms, they didn't spread anywhere, and that was a blessing. So I also learned other language, more medical terminology when it came to my illness, which I say I'm in survivorship. And that's why I wanted to come on here today, because I really don't talk much about it, but I just want you to know this is how that podcast really started. Because that podcast started from me having breast cancer at the age of 60. And it was a detour. Trust me, I never fathomed in my life. I had just turned 60. I had a party. I went and had my mammogram like I always do every year. But that mammogram was nothing like any of them before. That mammogram was different. And it was different because the technician was focused on the left breast. And her story was, I just want to take a clear picture so that the doctor won't have to call you back in. I am grateful to that technician for her due diligence of doing that. So I have no complaints. But one thing I did learn about my journey is that I saw people walking around who just looked angry and bitter. And I don't know if I was sent there to cheer them up, because for some reason I could cheer up the people sitting in the waiting room, the people that were the workers there, you know. I guess for me, I had to make light of this situation, even though I would come home, and I will be honest with you, I would come home messed up because I had to go through this. My mind was okay when I was there, and I guess because there were people around. But when you come to your house and you gotta walk up the stairs, I drove myself there and back to all these appointments. I went for radiation during my lunch break. So I was doing all of this, but it was when I came home and it was no one here that I began to sit with my thoughts and I would begin to question God about why me. But then I looked at it and I said, God, if there is something I need to do with this journey, I will do it. And that unexpected detour was how it all started. That came from me talking to God and listening to him. And I needed to I didn't want to call it a cancer journey like everybody else. I wanted to be different. And that's why I call it my unexpected detour. And believe you me, please understand that cancer is not just physical. It's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritually, and it's deeply personal. And for those who are new that enter this, it is new. It is new. But the most important thing, you just have to ask questions. Don't sit there and let people just do things to you. Don't take one person's advice or one person, don't go to one hospital and say, okay, this is what they said. For me, I had to get two opinions. I just could not deal with the first one because I didn't think the lady knew what she was talking about. So I'm glad I did the footwork and I went further because it was important to me, because I don't want anybody doing something to me that doesn't need to be done. I don't want anybody that cannot explain exactly what is happening to me. I needed a clear understanding so that I could know. So please, if you're doing anything that's physical, or that if you're dealing with physical challenges, let's put it this way, make sure you just don't go with one opinion. Go get more. Seriously, go get more. Because one opinion doesn't always make it right. And you won't feel bad. You can always tell your doctor, like I did, well, I'm going to get another opinion. Well, the dismissive doctor, I had to let him know that I was going to get another opinion. The one that he was rude to me, but I went and I got another opinion, and I'm glad I did. Because I had a doctor, they sat down with me, explained everything. I knew I didn't have the BRCA gene, and that was a blessing. But I knew I had cancer. And you know what? I asked it's not a crazy question. The question I asked, how did I get this? That is exactly what I asked. And he explained it to me. Cancer, everybody has this gene in them. And cancer is a bad gene. And it can break off and it'll attach itself to good genes. And that's how it spreads. Now, sometimes it doesn't spread, sometimes it does. So that was my understanding and my takeaway of cancer. But then the more I started researching it, the more I saw that so many things that we eat, the environment that we drink, a lot of these things have contributing factors into this. And one that I'll never forget was every doctor telling me I needed to lose weight. And I was like, if I lose any more weight, I'll be a string bean. Perhaps I should have listened, but I didn't. Because they're the doctor, and like my mother said, I don't have a medical degree, so I'm like, what does the doctor know? He's just saying that because he don't, he's just feeling some kind of way. So this is what I wanted to get on here and talk about, my journey, because I never want anybody to think that I've stepped away from cancer, talking about breast cancer. I haven't. I just want to help other people to learn more about what it is. What are you doing? What can you do to, maybe you won't be able to prevent it because of the environment, but maybe you could change your lifestyle and that will better serve you. So you could be around for your kids. So you could teach your kids how to take better care of themselves. So this unexpected detour has been a detour. And I am glad I got to share this with you. And I thank you so much for joining with me today and listening. And know that if you're struggling, please reach out. Reach out. If I can be of any help from what I've gone through, you can contact me on my website, theunexpecteddetour.net, or you can email me at theunexpecteddetour17@gmail. I not only listen to cancer patients with breast cancer, I listen to all detours because everybody has a detour. Everybody's detour starts somewhere and it ends at somewhere. Everybody is going through something. And when you do like I did and you look at your life like I looked at mine, we've all gone on a journey, a detour, and it led somewhere. The question is, how do you handle that detour? So until the next time, thank you for joining the Unexpected Detour. And no, you will never walk alone because you can always come here and talk to me on your platform. Have a good day.